Immediately, he took her to a hotel and… Los Angeles wore a silver shroud that morning, the rain cascading from the skies like a broken dam. Drops pelted against the tinted windows of Gregory Powell's black sedan, smearing the city into blurred streaks of grey and neon. Inside, the hum of the engine was nearly drowned out by the rhythmic drumming of rain on glass. Gregory, seated in the back seat, scrolled through the financial reports glowing on his tablet. His sharp, angular face was a mask of focus, but the tension in his fingers betrayed a restlessness he refused to acknowledge. "Traffic's slowing ahead," the driver announced, his voice steady, yet cautious. Gregory grunted an acknowledgement without looking up. His meeting with potential investors was less than an hour away, and delays weren't part of his plan. But something outside the window pulled his attention. His gaze flicked from the tablet to the sidewalk. A woman huddled against a graffiti-stained wall, her dark hair plastered to her face. She clutched a cardboard sign with shaking hands. "Hungry, please help," it read, the ink bleeding into the wet cardboard. For a moment, Gregory's thoughts stilled. There was something hauntingly familiar in the tilt of her head, the curve of her shoulders. "Stop the car," he ordered abruptly, his tone cutting through the lull of the cabin. "Sir?" The driver hesitated, glancing in the rear view mirror. "I said, stop." The car pulled to a slick halt. Gregory stepped out, the rain immediately seeping into his polished shoes and dark grey overcoat. The city buzzed around him, but his focus was solely on the woman slumped against the wall. As he approached, she looked up. Her face, gaunt and shadowed with exhaustion, struck him like a blow. "Amanda." His voice, usually a measured baritone, trembled. Her eyes narrowed, flickering with recognition before hardening into a wary glaze. "No," she murmured, her voice raspy and weak. She turned her face away, pulling the sodden hood of her jacket tighter around her. "Don't lie to me. It's you and me. Gregory, from San Pedro." Gregory insisted, kneeling to her level despite the rain soaking his trousers. He searched her face, now streaked with rain and dirt, and saw fragments of the girl he once knew. What happened? Gregory inhaled sharply, ignoring the sharp edges of her words. "Come with me," he said softly, but firmly. Amanda flinched, her body curling inward as if bracing for a blow. "I'm fine where I am," she muttered, her voice brittle. "Don't do this," he said, the steel in his voice tempered by something warmer. "You don't have to stay out here." Her jaw tightened. "I don't need your pity, Gregory." "It's not pity," he countered, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "It's me. You know me." She hesitated, the rain running down her face in rivulets. Her lips parted as if to argue, but the words never came. Something in his unwavering gaze, steady and unyielding as it had been when they were kids, made her defiance falter. I can't pay you back," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible over the rain. Gregory stood and extended a hand. "I'm not asking for anything." For a long moment, Amanda stared at his outstretched hand, her own trembling at her sides. Finally, with a small reluctant nod, she reached out and allowed him to help her up. The ride back to the hotel was shrouded in heavy silence. Gregory sat upright, his hands clasped loosely in his lap, while Amanda huddled against the far corner of the back seat, clutching her wet jacket as though it could shield her from the weight of the moment. Through the rain-streaked window, Los Angeles sprawled before them, gleaming skyscrapers juxtaposed with dingy alleyways. "You haven't changed much," Gregory said suddenly, his voice cutting through the stillness. Amanda snorted softly. "That's a kind way to say I look like hell." "You know what I mean," he replied. She didn't respond. Her eyes remained fixed on the city outside, but her fingers fidgeted with the frayed hem of her jacket. Gregory glanced at her, wanting to ask 1,000 questions, but knowing none of them would be welcome just yet. Instead, he let the silence stretch between them, the hum of the engine and the patter of rain filling the space. As the car pulled into the hotel's circular drive, Amanda finally spoke, her voice low and raw. "Why are you doing this?" Gregory met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Because I can't not do it." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she looked away. The driver opened her door, and as she stepped out, the rain briefly washed over her again. Gregory followed close behind, a protective shadow. The warmth and opulence of the hotel lobby seemed to engulf them as they entered. But as the elevator doors closed, sealing them in together, Amanda glanced at Gregory through lowered lashes. "Maybe you should have just kept driving," she murmured. Gregory's only response was the quiet resolve in his eyes. The hotel room was too quiet. Amanda sat perched on the edge of the plush armchair, her posture rigid, as if the cushions might swallow her whole. The light was warm, casting soft shadows across the rich wood furniture and polished surfaces, but it only heightened the unfamiliarity. She tugged at the hem of her damp hoodie, the smell of rain and the streets still clinging to her. Gregory stood by the window, his silhouette sharp against the rain-slicked cityscape. He had insisted she stay here, brushing aside her objections with an ease that unsettled her. She hadn't had the energy to fight him. "Room service can bring up anything you need," he said without turning, his voice carefully measured. "Clothes, toiletries. Just let them know." "I'll be fine," Amanda replied, the words coming out more curt than she intended. He looked back at her, a flicker of something, hurt, frustration, crossing his face before disappearing. "Okay, I'll check in tomorrow." She nodded, not meeting his gaze. He lingered for a moment longer, then left, the door clicking shut with a finality that sent a small shiver through her. Alone, Amanda exhaled shakily. Her reflection in the ornate mirror caught her eye, and she flinched. The person staring back at her was a stranger. Gaunt cheeks, hollow eyes, hair that clung to her face in limp strands. She turned away. Hours passed, marked only by the steady rhythm of rain against the window. Amanda wandered the room, her fingers grazing the luxurious bedding, the thick curtains, the sparkling glassware. It felt like another world, one she didn't belong in. Memories bubbled up unbidden, sharp and bitter. She sat down on the bed, her hands gripping the edges as if to anchor herself. The words came before she could stop them, tumbling out in a low murmur to the empty room. "When you left, everything fell apart." She could still see it, the day Gregory's family packed up and moved away from San Pedro. She had stood on the sidewalk, clutching a worn paperback he'd lent her, watching the moving truck rumble down the street. He had promised to write and to visit. Neither happened. Her father lost his job 2 months later. Bills piled up, arguments erupted, and eventually the house was sold. They moved to a cramped apartment in a neighborhood that smelled of mildew and despair. Her mother withdrew into herself, her once bright laughter fading like an old photograph. "I met Samuel not long after," she continued, her voice thick with regret. "He was different, bold. He had this way of making you believe things could get better." She swallowed hard, her hands trembling in her lap. But it was all a lie. Samuel was charming, yes, but reckless. His connections to dangerous people became clear too late. Amanda tried to hold things together, but by the time Gloria was born, she was drowning. Samuel's promises to change turned to ash, and one day, he simply disappeared. "I didn't have a choice," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I couldn't give Gloria the life she deserved. So, I let her go." Her mind flashed to the last time she saw Gloria, a tiny bundle of warmth in her arms, her cries breaking the sterile silence of the adoption center. Amanda had kissed her daughter's forehead, whispered an apology she knew Gloria couldn't understand, and walked away. The guilt never left. Gregory returned the next morning, carrying a paper bag of coffee and pastries. He set them on the small table without a word, his eyes scanning her face, as if trying to gauge her state of mind. "You don't have to say anything," he said finally, pulling out a chair. "But if you ever want to talk, I'm here." Amanda hesitated. She detested the sensation of being exposed and the vulnerability that enveloped her. But something in Gregory's expression, a quiet patience she didn't remember him having, made her speak. She told him everything. The move, her parents' struggles, Samuel, Gloria. The words poured out in fits and starts, punctuated by long silences where she stared at the floor, willing herself not to cry. Gregory listened without interrupting, his hands clasped tightly on the table. When she finished, he leaned forward, his gaze steady. "We can find her, Amanda. Gloria." Her stomach twisted at the suggestion. "No," she said sharply. "I can't. I won't drag her into this. She's safe where she is." "She's your daughter. And what if she hates me? What if—" Her voice cracked, and she looked away. "I can't." Gregory didn't push. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Just think about it." The street outside the hotel had an air of quiet elegance, its cobblestones glistening under the soft light of antique street lamps. But Amanda couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. From the corner of her window, she glimpsed a shadow lingering across the street, a figure just out of reach of the light, unmoving, yet impossible to ignore. She told herself it was nothing. Ever since she entered this unfamiliar world of polished wood, warm lighting, and the faint scent of lavender in the air, her mind had been deceiving her. Still, the shadow returned each evening, never closer, but always present. Gregory had started stopping by daily, his presence both reassuring and overwhelming. He never stayed long, just enough to bring food, check if she needed anything, or offer quiet words of encouragement. "You don't have to do this, you know," Amanda said one afternoon, her voice soft but uneasy. She sat by the window, staring out at the city, refusing to meet his gaze. Gregory leaned against the small table, his tone calm. "You'd do the same for me." She hesitated, unsure how to respond. I'm not used to this," she admitted finally, gesturing at the room. "Any of this." "You don't have to be," he replied simply. He advised taking each day as it comes. She nodded, grateful but still guarded. When Gregory left, she glanced out the window again. The shadow hadn't moved. Her chest tightened. Something was wrong. The decision had gnawed at Amanda for days. Even though the hotel room was warm and inviting, it felt like a luxurious prison. The plush surroundings and Gregory's persistent kindness only deepened her discomfort. She couldn't stay here, not when her past loomed so heavily, and her guilt screamed louder than the city streets she had left behind. One late afternoon, she stood by the door, her backpack slung over her shoulder. Gregory, alerted by her intentions, appeared before she could leave. "You can't just walk out," he said, his voice calm but firm. His tailored suit seemed almost out of place against her worn, second-hand jacket. But his resolve made him seem immovable. "I'm not your responsibility, Gregory," she shot back, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. "You're not a responsibility, Amanda. You're my—" He stopped, exhaling sharply. "I just want to help." "You've done enough," she replied, glancing away. The hesitation in her stance betrayed her words. "I need to figure this out on my own." Gregory stepped closer, his frustration barely veiled. And go where? Back to the streets? You think that's safer? Better? She flinched, the sting of his words cutting deeper than intended. I've survived worse. You shouldn't have to survive. The tension was suffocating, the unspoken emotions between them threatening to burst. Before either could say more, the faint echo of hurried footsteps in the corridor reached their ears. Amanda. The voice was hoarse, tinged with urgency. The name struck her like a sharp piece of glass, causing her to freeze. Slowly, she turned toward the figure emerging from the shadowed hallway. Samuel. He looked like a ghost dragged from the past, unshaven, hollow-eyed, his clothes rumpled and wet from the rain that had started outside. His chest rose and fell heavily, his gaze darting between Amanda and Gregory. What the hell are you doing here? Amanda's voice was cold, her body tense. Samuel blurted out, I didn't know where else to go. You don't understand. They found me. They know about Gloria. Amanda's heart lurched. What are you talking about? Samuel took a shaky step forward, his hands raised as if to placate her. Lawrence, he knows. I thought I could stay hidden, but he always finds a way. He's threatening her, Amanda. He'll hurt Gloria if I don't. His voice broke, and he raked a hand through his damp hair. Don't you dare! Amanda interrupted, her voice shaking with fury. You left. You ran. And now you're dragging her into this after everything? I didn't have a choice, Samuel snapped, his desperation overriding his guilt. You think I wanted this? To leave you? To leave her? Lawrence would have killed us all if I stayed. Gregory, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. Who is Lawrence? Samuel turned his attention to him, his eyes narrowing slightly. You must be the savior, the guy who thinks he can fix everything with money. Gregory didn't flinch. Answer the question. He's the reason my life is a goddamn mess, Samuel spat. A trafficker, a dealer. The man runs half the city's underbelly. I worked for him. I didn't know what I was getting into until it was too late. And now, he's coming for my daughter. Gloria's not your daughter anymore, Amanda said through gritted teeth. You gave up that right when you left us. I know. I don't deserve her, Samuel said quietly, his voice cracking. But this isn't about me. It's about keeping her alive. Gregory's expression remained unreadable, though a flicker of something dark crossed his eyes. How do you know she's in danger? They're watching, Samuel said, his voice dropping to a whisper. I saw them near the old neighborhood. They're not subtle when they want you to know you're cornered. Amanda's stomach churned. The thought of Gloria, so small, so vulnerable, being a target made her head spin. And you came here? She hissed, stepping closer. You led them here? No. Samuel shook his head vehemently. I made sure I wasn't followed, but they'll find her. Amanda. They always do. Gregory glanced at Amanda, his jaw tightening. If he's revealing the truth, our time is precious. I don't trust him, Amanda said, glaring at Samuel. You don't have to trust me, Samuel said. But Gloria's out there. And if we don't do something, Lawrence will get to her first. Gregory nodded slowly, his decision made. Then we start now. But if you're lying, he said, his voice low and lethal as he stared at Samuel. You'll regret it. Samuel swallowed hard, nodding. I'm not lying. Gloria's all I have left. Amanda turned away, pressing her trembling hands to her face. The past was colliding with the present, and the stakes were higher than she'd ever imagined. Outside, the rain fell harder, as if echoing the storm building within her. Gregory sat across from Henry in the detective's dimly lit office. The faint smell of burnt coffee and paper filled the air, and the walls were covered in maps of Los Angeles, marked with lines and notes that hinted at Henry's unrelenting pursuit of justice. A stack of files sat between them, and Henry's face was grim as he flipped through the top one. "Vic, you're entering a dangerous situation," Henry uttered in a low, gravelly voice. He closed the folder and leaned back in his chair, regarding Gregory with a mixture of concern and disbelief. Lawrence isn't some small-time crook. The man has connections that go deep. Politicians, cops, the works. You don't mess with him unless you're prepared to lose everything. Gregory didn't flinch. "And if I don't?" Henry sighed, rubbing his temples. "If you don't, then a little girl stays in the crosshairs of one of the most dangerous men in the city. But this isn't just about her, is it? You're too smart to dive into something like this just for a stranger." "She's not a stranger," Gregory said firmly. Henry studied him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll help. But you need to be smart. No heroics." Gregory nodded, but his resolve was clear. He wasn't walking away from this. Back at the hotel, the tension was palpable. Samuel paced the room, his movements erratic. Amanda sat on the bed's edge, her arms crossed tightly, observing him intently. "You really think he can help?" Samuel asked, stopping abruptly. "Gregory doesn't get involved unless he's sure," Amanda replied, her voice sharper than intended. Samuel scoffed. "Rich guy thinks he can just throw money at the problem and make it go away." "That rich guy has done more for me in a week than you ever did," Amanda shot back, her tone cutting. Samuel leaned forward, his eyes darting to Amanda. "And then what? You think Lawrence's men will just give up?" Amanda turned, her voice sharp. "This is a mess. You dragged us into this, Samuel. How do I even know you're telling the truth?" Samuel's face hardened, but there was a flicker of pain in his eyes. "You think I'd lie about this? About her? You think I'd risk coming back here, putting myself in their sights for fun?" The door opened and Gregory stepped inside, his expression unreadable. "Enough. Fighting each other won't help Gloria. Henry has a lead," he said, setting a folder on the table. "Gloria is with a woman named Megan in a suburban neighborhood just outside the city." Amanda's breath caught and her fingers tightened on the bedspread. "She's safe?" "For now," Gregory said. "But Lawrence's men are closing in. If we don't act quickly, she won't be here for long." Samuel moved to the table, scanning the contents of the folder. Maps, photos, and notes sprawled out like a blueprint of danger. "This is where she is?" he asked, pointing to a highlighted address. Gregory nodded. "Henry's team confirmed it, but we'll need to move carefully. Lawrence has eyes everywhere." Amanda stood, her legs feeling unsteady. "We need to go now." Gregory shook his head. "We need a plan. If we rush in, we'll just be leading Lawrence's men straight to her." Samuel's jaw tightened. "We don't have time for plans. She's my daughter. I'm not waiting around while you figure out logistics." "Your recklessness is what got us here in the first place," Gregory snapped, his calm demeanor cracking for the first time. "Don't you dare," Samuel shot back, stepping closer to Gregory. "You don't know anything about what I've done, what I've sacrificed. I know you left," Gregory interrupted, his voice low and steady. "And now we're cleaning up your mess. Stop it." Amanda's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Both men turned to her, their anger fading into silence. She took a shaky breath, her hands trembling. "This isn't about you. This is about Gloria. So whatever this is," she gestured between them, "leave it here. We don't luxuriate in fighting each other." Gregory's shoulders relaxed slightly, and Samuel looked away, guilt flickering across his face. "Fine," Gregory said finally, "but we do this my way. Carefully." Samuel nodded reluctantly, and Amanda exhaled, the weight of their mission settling heavily on her chest. Late that night, as the rain returned, Amanda found herself staring out the window again. The shadow across the street was gone, but its absence felt just as ominous. Gregory's voice broke the silence. "You okay?" She turned to find him standing in the doorway, his expression softer than before. "No," she admitted, "but I don't think I've been okay in a long time." Gregory stepped closer, his presence steadying. "We'll find her, Amanda, and we'll keep her safe. I promise." She nodded, though doubt lingered in her heart. They were moving towards something unknown and dangerous, and the stakes had never been higher. In a dark corner of the city, Lawrence's men prepared for their next move. A photo of Megan's house lay on the table, Gloria's smiling face circled in red. Time was running out. The suburban neighborhood stood in stark contrast to the chaos Amanda had left behind. Trimmed hedges lined the sidewalks, and children's bicycles were scattered across neatly manicured lawns. Everything looked peaceful, ordinary, almost painfully so. Gregory pulled the car to a stop down the street from the house Henry had pinpointed. "That's it," he said, nodding toward a modest, two-story home with a white picket fence. Amanda leaned forward, her breath catching as she saw the tiny figure playing in the yard. Gloria. Her dark curls bounced as she ran across the grass, chasing a small dog. Laughter floated through the air, unguarded and pure. Amanda's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of her seat. Amanda whispered, "She's so big." Her voice cracked, and she quickly looked away, as if the sight of her daughter was too much to bear. "You don't have to go in right now," Gregory said gently. "No," she said, shaking her head. I need a moment." Gregory glanced at Samuel in the back seat. The man had been unusually quiet since they left the city. His jaw was clenched, and his gaze was fixed on Gloria, like a man watching the last shred of his humanity slip away. "I'll talk to Megan," Gregory said, stepping out of the car. The door opened after a few moments, revealing Megan, a kind-faced woman in her late 30s, her auburn hair pulled into a loose ponytail. Her expression shifted from surprise to wariness as Gregory introduced himself. "I know this is unexpected," Gregory began, his tone calm and measured, "but I need to talk to you about Gloria." Megan's eyes narrowed, her protective instincts flaring. "Is this about her adoption? Because we've followed every legal step." "This isn't about legality," Gregory interrupted gently. "It's about her safety." She froze, her hand tightening on the doorframe. "What do you mean?" Gregory stepped back, his demeanor carefully non-threatening. "There's a situation involving someone dangerous. Gloria's biological mother is here, and she just wants to see her. No one's asking you to give her up, but we need to keep her safe." Megan hesitated, her gaze flicking to Gloria, who was now sitting on the grass, giggling as the dog licked her face. Finally, she nodded, her shoulders tense. "All right, but I'm staying with her." Amanda's heart pounded as she stepped through the gate and into the yard. Gloria looked up, her big brown eyes curious, but unafraid. "Hi," Amanda said softly, crouching down to meet her gaze. "Hi," Gloria replied, her voice high and sweet. The words caught in Amanda's throat. She wanted to reach out, to pull her daughter into her arms, but instead, she smiled. "You have a beautiful yard. Do you like playing here?" Gloria nodded, holding up the small stuffed rabbit she was clutching. "This is Mr. Floppy. He helps me find bugs." Amanda laughed, the sound brittle with emotion. "Mr. Floppy sounds very brave." Gloria grinned, then looked toward Megan, who stood a few feet away, watching silently. "Mommy, who's this?" Amanda flinched at the word, her composure wavering. Megan stepped in, her tone steady. "This is a friend. She just wanted to meet you." "Hi, friend," Gloria said cheerfully, holding out her stuffed rabbit. Amanda's hand trembled as she took it, and her voice was barely audible. "Hi, Gloria." From the car, Samuel watched the scene unfold, his face a mask of pain. "She doesn't even know who we are," he muttered. "Not yet," Gregory said. His eyes scanned the street, sharp and wary. "But she will, if we can keep her safe." Samuel exhaled sharply, leaning back against the seat. "I thought I'd never see her again," he admitted, his voice breaking. Gregory didn't respond. His attention was focused on a black SUV parked 2 houses down, its engine idling. The hairs on his neck pricked up. "Samuel," Gregory said quietly, his tone urgent. "Stay here." "What?" "Just stay in the car." Gregory stepped out, his movements deliberate as he crossed the street. The SUV's tinted windows obscured its occupants, but he knew better than to ignore the instinct prickling at him. As Gregory approached, the SUV pulled away slowly, its tires crunching against the gravel. His chest tightened as he memorized the license plate, before turning back toward Megan's house. He found Amanda still sitting with Gloria, their conversation halting but tender. Megan watched with a guarded expression, clearly unsure of what to make of the situation. "We need to go," Gregory said, quietly, stepping up beside Amanda. Amanda looked at him, confused. "What? Why?" Gregory's jaw tightened. "Lawrence's men were here. We don't have much time." Her face paled, and she turned back to Gloria, her heart breaking anew. I can't leave her again." "You won't," Gregory said firmly, "but we need to move now." Megan, overhearing, stepped forward, her eyes wide with fear. "What's going on? Who's Lawrence?" Gregory met her gaze. "Someone dangerous." "I'll explain everything. But we need to get Gloria somewhere safe, immediately." The peaceful yard suddenly felt like a battlefield waiting to ignite. Time was running out. The quiet suburban home became a fragile sanctuary as they moved inside. Megan clutched Gloria close, her protective instincts sharp. Amanda lingered by the doorway, her body tense as she watched Megan interact with the child she had been forced to give up. Gregory stood at her side, his gaze sweeping the room, cataloguing exits and windows like a man readying for a siege. "You can't just drop this bomb and expect me to pack up and leave," Megan said, her voice trembling but firm. "Gloria's my daughter." "She's our daughter," Amanda corrected quietly, her voice filled with restrained emotion. Megan's face softened, but only slightly. "That doesn't change the fact that she's safe here. You're the ones who've brought danger to her doorstep." Gregory intervened, his tone calm but commanding. "Megan, if Lawrence's men were watching this house, they know Gloria is here. Staying isn't an option. We need to move her to a secure location." "And then what? Hand her back to you?" Megan snapped, her fear manifesting as anger. "No," Amanda interjected, stepping forward. "We just need to protect her. That's all I want. Please." Megan hesitated, searching Amanda's face. Whatever she saw there seemed to chip away at her resistance. She nodded slowly. "Fine, but I'm not leaving her side. Do you like to listen to stories that combine thrilling action elements with family affection like this? If so, leave a comment. Jelly, if not, write pudding. We would love to hear from the audience and orient the channel content to suit you better. In the hours that followed, a tense rhythm settled over the group. Megan packed a few essentials for Gloria, while Gregory coordinated with Henry to arrange a safe house. Amanda tried to help, but her presence seemed to unearth more tension than it eased. Gloria, blissfully unaware of the looming threat, chattered about her favorite stuffed animals as she packed them into a small backpack. Samuel, meanwhile, paced in the shadows of the living room, his every movement radiating unease. Gregory caught his eye and stepped closer, his voice low. "You're making everyone nervous." Samuel stopped, his fists clenching. "And you're too calm. Do you even understand what we're dealing with? Lawrence isn't some petty thug." "I know exactly who Lawrence is," Gregory replied, his tone clipped. "I'm uncertain if you're genuinely seeking assistance or merely reacting out of fear." Samuel's face darkened, his voice rising. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to be the guy who left his family? I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice," Gregory shot back. "You made the decision to leave Amanda and Gloria on their own. Now you want to play the hero?" The tension in the room became suffocating as the two men squared off. "That's enough!" Amanda's voice pierced the atmosphere sharply. Both men turned to her, their anger momentarily eclipsed by her frustration. "I don't have time for your egos. This is about Gloria. Focus on her or get out of the way." Gregory backed off first, his jaw tightening as he turned toward the kitchen. Samuel exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair before retreating to the far corner of the room. By the time night fell, the house was shrouded in uneasy quiet. Amanda sat with Gloria in the small guest room Megan had hastily prepared. The little girl clutched Mr. Floppy tightly as she leaned against Amanda's side, her eyes drooping with sleep. "Do you have a bunny?" Gloria asked, her voice soft and drowsy. Amanda smiled faintly, brushing a curl from Gloria's forehead. "I used to. A long time ago." "Did he help you find bugs too?" "He helped me find a lot of things," Amanda replied, her voice catching. Gloria nodded, satisfied, and drifted off to sleep. Amanda stayed beside her, unable to let go of the fragile connection she had fought so hard to reclaim. In the living room, Gregory was on the phone with Henry. "What's the status?" he inquired, his voice barely audible over a whisper. There was a pause before Henry replied. "Bad news. We've intercepted some chatter. Lawrence's men have your location. They'll be there by dawn." Gregory swore under his breath, his mind racing. "We'll be gone before then." "You'd better be," Henry warned. "This isn't just about Gloria anymore. If they find you, it's all over." Gregory ended the call and turned to find Samuel watching him from the doorway. "They're coming, aren't they?" Samuel asked. Gregory nodded. "We have a few hours. That's it." Samuel looked toward the guest room where Gloria was sleeping. "We're not losing her. Not again." Gregory didn't respond, but his resolve mirrored Samuel's in that moment. Whatever it took, they would protect Gloria. Outside, the night deepened and shadows began to move in the distance. Time was slipping away and the storm was closing in. The living room was quiet, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the adjacent kitchen. Gregory sat at the small dining table with Amanda and Gloria, who was happily arranging a lineup of stuffed animals on the surface. She chattered on about Mr. Floppy's adventures, her voice a small beacon of innocence amidst the tension. Amanda watched her daughter, a soft, bittersweet smile tugging at her lips. Her hands fidgeted in her lap, betraying the storm of emotions swirling beneath her composed facade. Gregory occasionally glanced toward her, offering silent support. Outside, the night had begun to stir uneasily. Samuel stood near the edge of the yard, his sharp eyes scanning the street for any movement. His restlessness had grown more pronounced, his gut tightening with the same instinct that had kept him alive in Lawrence's world for so long. He rubbed his hands together against the cool air, pacing near the gate. Then he saw it, a pair of headlights creeping down the street, moving too deliberately to belong to a neighbor. Samuel froze, his breath catching as the car rolled to a stop a few houses down. The dark silhouettes inside were unmistakable. Hissed under his breath, he spun on his heel. He ran toward the house, throwing open the door with a force that rattled the hinges. "They're here," he barked, his voice slicing through the calm. Gregory was on his feet in an instant, his chair scraping against the floor. "How many?" "2 cars. At least 4 guys," Samuel panted, grabbing the bag of essentials they'd packed earlier. "We need to go. Now." Amanda scooped up Gloria, who clung to her stuffed rabbit with wide, frightened eyes. Megan appeared in the doorway, her face pale but determined. "What's going on?" "There's no time to explain," Gregory said sharply, ushering everyone toward the back door. "We have to move." The group spilled into the backyard, the chill of the night sharp against their skin. Gregory led the way to his car, parked in the alley behind the house. Samuel stayed at the rear, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. The moment everyone was inside, Gregory floored the accelerator, the car lurching forward as they sped down the darkened alley. Behind them, the glow of headlights burst into view. "They've seen us!" Samuel shouted, twisting to look out the rear window. Gregory didn't reply, his focus razor-sharp as he navigated the narrow streets, the car bouncing over potholes and sharp turns. Amanda clung to Gloria, shielding her as the little girl buried her face in her mother's shoulder. Megan sat rigidly, gripping the edge of her seat tightly, her knuckles white. "Where's the safe house?" Samuel demanded. 30 minutes away if we lose them," Gregory replied through gritted teeth. "And if we don't?" Gregory's jaw tightened. "We will." The pursuing cars grew closer, their engines roaring in the night. Samuel reached into his jacket, pulling out a small pistol. Amanda's eyes widened. "What the hell are you doing with that?" she snapped. "Keeping us alive," he shot back, rolling down the window. Gregory swerved hard as a gunshot rang out, the side mirror shattering under the impact. Samuel leaned out of the window, firing back at the closest car. "Keep driving!" Samuel shouted as Gregory made a sharp turn onto a main road, narrowly missing a parked car. The streets of Los Angeles blurred past in a chaotic dance of headlights and neon signs. Gregory weaved through traffic, his hands steady on the wheel, despite the chaos. Samuel's shots found their mark, and one of the pursuers swerved, slamming into a light pole. "One down," Samuel muttered, ducking back into the car. "Don't get cocky," Gregory warned. The remaining car continued its relentless pursuit, inching closer with every turn. Amanda whispered soothing words to Gloria, her own fear barely concealed. Gregory's phone buzzed on the dashboard. He tapped the speaker button. "Henry, where are you?" 2 minutes out, Henry's voice came through, tense but steady. "Keep heading west. We'll intercept." Gregory pushed the car harder, the engine protesting as it sped down the deserted streets. In the distance, flashing red and blue lights appeared. The pursuing car hesitated, then abruptly turned off onto a side street. Gregory slowed, his breath heavy as the adrenaline began to fade. Henry's unmarked car pulled up beside them, and the detective stepped out, his face grim. "Everyone okay?" he asked, scanning the group. "We're fine," Gregory said, his voice tight. "For now," Samuel muttered, still gripping his pistol. Henry nodded. "Follow me. We'll take you to the safe house." Gregory looked back at the others. Amanda's arms were wrapped tightly around Gloria, who had finally fallen asleep, her tiny hand clutching Mr. Floppy. Megan sat close, her gaze distant as the weight of the night settled over her. Gregory put the car in gear, following Henry into the night. They had escaped, for now, but the shadow of Lawrence loomed closer than ever. The safe house was an old, secluded property on the outskirts of the city, tucked away behind tall hedges and a heavy iron gate. The group moved inside, their exhaustion palpable. Henry remained outside, coordinating backup with the police while Gregory and Samuel assessed the house's defenses. The living room felt too small, the walls closing in around Amanda as she watched Gloria sleep on a makeshift bed. Megan stayed close, her hand resting protectively on Gloria's back. Amanda's gaze darted between the door and the window, her nerves fraying with every passing second. "We're not ready for this," Samuel muttered, pacing near the entryway. "We don't have a choice," Gregory replied, his tone sharp. "Henry said they're coming, and we can't let them get past us." "You're not thinking clearly," Samuel snapped. "This isn't some boardroom negotiation, Gregory. These men don't play fair." Gregory's patience cracked. "And it's working so well for you, hasn't it? We're here cleaning up your mess, so don't lecture me about what's at stake." Samuel stepped closer, his fists clenched. "You think you're better than me? You don't know what it's like to make the choices I had to make." Amanda stepped between them, her voice trembling but firm. "Enough. If you two can't work together, then leave. I don't care what you think of each other. But Gloria needs us. All of us." The tension hung heavy in the air before Samuel looked away, muttering under his breath. Gregory exhaled sharply and turned back to the windows. The first sign of trouble came minutes later, the distant growl of engines. Henry burst through the front door, his expression grim. "They're here," he said, pulling out his firearm. Samuel grabbed his pistol, shoving it into his waistband. "I'll handle it." "No," Gregory said, blocking his path. "You stay inside. We keep them away from the house." But Samuel shook his head, determination blazing in his eyes. "This ends tonight." Before Gregory could stop him, Samuel slipped out the back door. Amanda clutched Gloria tighter as gunfire echoed in the distance. Lawrence's men swarmed the perimeter, their dark silhouettes moving like shadows. Samuel crouched behind a low stone wall, his pulse steady as he aimed at the advancing figures. He fired, taking down 2, but the remaining men pressed forward. Inside, Gregory and Henry held the front door, exchanging gunfire with the attackers. Megan crouched in the corner, shielding Gloria as Amanda gripped a baseball bat, her knuckles white. Suddenly, a crash came from the rear of the house. One of Lawrence's men had breached the back door. Amanda swung the bat with everything she had, knocking the man off balance. Gregory ran to her side, disarming him before securing the door again. "They're everywhere!" Gregory shouted. Outside, Samuel was pinned down. He reloaded quickly, but the odds were overwhelming. When he saw 2 men breaking away toward the house, he made his move. Amanda was holding Gloria when the door burst open. A man with a gun stormed in, his face twisted in a snarl. Before anyone could react, a shot rang out. Samuel stood in the doorway, his chest heaving as he fired again, taking the man down. But then came the sharp, deafening crack of another shot. Samuel staggered, his hand clutching his side as blood seeped through his shirt. "Samuel!" Amanda screamed, rushing to his side as he collapsed. Gregory and Henry fought off the remaining attackers while Amanda cradled Samuel in her lap. His face was pale, his breaths shallow. Don't cry," Samuel rasped, his voice barely audible. "You're going to be fine," Amanda said, her tears falling freely. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "I'm not. But she will be. Gloria will be." His eyes flicked to Gregory, and he grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Promise me," he said, his voice fierce. "Promise me you'll take care of them." Gregory nodded, his throat tight. "I promise." Samuel's gaze softened as he looked back at Amanda. Tell Gloria I loved her." His voice faded, and his grip loosened. Amanda sobbed, clutching him as the sound of sirens grew louder. The police stormed the property, taking the remaining attackers into custody. Henry approached, his expression somber as he looked at Samuel's lifeless body. "It's over," Henry said quietly, but the weight of his words did little to ease the pain in the room. Gregory knelt beside Amanda, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "We need to move," he said gently. "For Gloria." Amanda nodded, her tears streaking her face as she stood, cradling Gloria in her arms. The child stirred, her sleepy eyes opening to the chaos around her. "Where's the brave man?" Gloria asked, her small voice breaking the silence. Amanda kissed her daughter's forehead, her heart breaking anew. "He's gone, sweetie, but he loved you very much." Gregory guided them toward the waiting police vehicles, his promise to Samuel burning in his mind. Whatever came next, he would keep it. As they drove away, the safe house faded into the distance, and with it, the echoes of the man who had given everything for the people he loved. The dawn brought a hollow silence. The safe house was no longer a battleground, but a crime scene. Police lights flashed against the muted horizon as Lawrence's men were handcuffed and loaded into the back of patrol cars. Henry positioned himself to the side, silently directing his team while closely monitoring the surrounding environment. Inside, Amanda sat in a corner of the living room, Gloria curled up against her. The little girl was clutching Mr. Floppy, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, but tinged with confusion. Megan hovered nearby, her protective instincts still sharp, but tempered by the events of the night. Gregory stood by the window, his hands in his pockets, his posture rigid. His gaze flicked toward Amanda and Gloria every few moments, the weight of his promise to Samuel pressing down on him like an iron chain. Henry entered, his expression grim but resolved. "We got most of them," he said, addressing Gregory. "And Lawrence will officially be under arrest. This won't stop every branch of his operation, but it's a damn good start." Gregory nodded. "It's something." Henry's voice softened. "What about you? And them?" He glanced toward Amanda. "We'll figure it out," Gregory replied, his tone leaving no room for doubt. Later that morning, Gregory and Amanda sat across from Megan in the small dining room. Gloria played quietly in the adjacent room, her laughter a faint reminder of the innocence they were all fighting to protect. "I don't know how this works," Megan said, her hands gripping the edges of her coffee cup. "I never expected to share her with anyone. But after everything..." She looked at Amanda, her expression a mix of resignation and understanding. "She deserves to know her mother." Amanda's voice was thick with emotion. "I don't want to take her away from you. You've given her everything I couldn't." Megan shook her head. "She's lucky to have both of us now. That's what matters." Gregory interjected, his voice steady. "We'll work out the details. But for now, the priority is keeping Gloria safe." Megan nodded, her resolve strengthening. "Agreed. Whatever it takes." As the day wore on, Amanda found herself stepping outside, needing air and distance from the weight of the past hours. Gregory followed, his presence quiet, but grounding. "Do you think he was scared?" Amanda asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gregory hesitated. "Maybe, but I think, in the end, he wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about you. About Gloria." Amanda nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "He wanted me to tell her he loved her." "You will," Gregory said gently, "and she'll know." The evening brought a calm that felt almost foreign. Gloria was asleep, her tiny form tucked beneath a soft blanket. Amanda sat by her side, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. Megan had retreated to another room, giving them space. Gregory entered quietly, a small box in his hand. He placed it on the table beside Amanda. "What's this?" she asked, her voice hushed. "It was Samuel's," Gregory said. "Henry found it with his things." Amanda opened the box carefully. Inside was a simple locket, worn but intact. She opened it to find a small picture of herself from a few years ago, next to a picture of Gloria as a baby. Amanda's breath hitched, and she clutched the locket tightly. He never stopped thinking about us. Gregory nodded. No, he didn't. The next morning, as the sun rose, Gregory stood with Amanda near the car, Gloria nestled in her arms. The child was still sleepy, her head resting against Amanda's shoulder. We should visit him, Gregory said, softly. Amanda looked at him, her eyes questioning. Samuel, Gregory clarified. He deserves to know we're okay. That Gloria's safe. Amanda hesitated, then nodded. You're right. Gregory placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch steadying. We'll go tomorrow. The three of them climbed into the car, the weight of the past still heavy, but laced with a sense of purpose. As they drove away, the locket hung around Amanda's neck. A quiet reminder of the man who'd given everything to protect the family he loved. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, it felt like there was a way forward. Together. The weeks that followed were a slow return to something resembling normalcy, though the scars of the past lingered. Gregory arranged for Amanda and Gloria to stay in a modest but comfortable apartment, not far from Megan's home. It was a compromise that allowed Gloria to split her time between her biological mother and the woman who had raised her. Each day brought small Gregorys. Gloria adjusted quickly to having two mothers, her natural curiosity and innocence bridging the emotional gaps between them. She delighted in showing Amanda her favorite books and toys, and her laughter often filled the apartment as she played with Mr. Floppy. For Amanda, however, the process was more fraught. At every step, she doubted her ability to fulfill the role of Gloria's mother. Gregory became her quiet anchor, offering steady encouragement without pushing too hard. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the apartment in warm hues, Amanda sat at the small dining table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. Gregory stood nearby, leaning against the counter. "She's so happy," Amanda said, her voice tinged with both wonder and disbelief. Gregory smiled softly. "Because she has you." Amanda shook her head. "No, it's Megan. Megan's given her everything." "You're giving her something too," Gregory said, stepping closer. "You're showing her where she came from, who she is. That matters." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of their shared journey hung between them. It was unspoken, but understood, a connection forged in the fires of their struggles. Meanwhile, Megan and Amanda began to forge their own relationship, though it wasn't without its challenges. At first, their interactions were stilted, the underlying tension of their shared love for Gloria palpable. But as time passed, they found common ground in their devotion to the little girl. One afternoon, as they watched Gloria color at the kitchen table, Megan broke the silence. "You're good with her, you know." Amanda looked at her, surprised. "I don't always feel like I am." Megan smiled faintly. "None of us do. But Gloria loves you. That's all that matters." The words lingered with Amanda long after Megan left that day, a small but meaningful balm to her insecurities. Gregory's presence remained constant, though he gave Amanda the space she needed to grow into her new life. When he visited, it was often under the guise of helping with errands or checking in on Gloria, but his quiet moments with Amanda became a source of strength for both of them. One evening, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city, Amanda turned to him. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" Gregory raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "For us," she said, her voice tentative. "After everything." He considered her words carefully. "I believe we approach the situation step by step, like we've been doing." Amanda nodded, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "I'm not sure I know how to do that." Gregory's smile was soft but reassuring. "You've done harder things, Amanda. You'll figure it out. One quiet morning, as Gloria played with her toys in the living room, Amanda heard a knock at the door. She opened it to find Megan holding an envelope, her expression curious but hesitant. "This came for you," Megan said, handing it over. "I thought you'd want it right away." Amanda frowned, taking the envelope. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. Samuel. Her hands trembled as she opened it, the familiar script inside causing her breath to hitch. "Amanda, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't make it to the other side of this fight. I'm sorry for everything, for leaving, for failing you and Gloria. But I hope you'll believe that everything I did was to keep you both safe. I've thought about you every day. You were my light in the darkest places. And Gloria, she's the best part of me. Take care of her. Show her the love I never could. And Amanda, don't let this define you. You're stronger than you think. You always were. I'll love you both. Always." Amanda pressed the letter to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Gregory appeared in the doorway, his concern immediate. "What is it?" he asked gently. She handed him the letter, her voice breaking. "It's from him." Gregory read it, his expression softening with sorrow and understanding. "He wanted you to know." Amanda nodded, her voice steady despite the tears. "And I do." Later that evening, as Gloria slept soundly, Amanda placed the letter in a small keepsake box beside the locket. It was a reminder not just of loss, but of love and resilience. She joined Gregory on the balcony, the city lights twinkling like stars. He handed her a cup of tea, and they stood in comfortable silence, the weight of the past slowly giving way to the promise of a future. Healing was slow, but it was happening, and for the first time in years, Amanda allowed herself to hope. The cemetery was quiet, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken emotions. Rows of headstones stretched out beneath the pale morning light, each marking a story of loss, love, and sacrifice. Gregory parked the car at the edge of the lot, stepping out first to hold the door open for Amanda and Gloria. Gloria held Amanda's hand tightly, her other arm clutching Mr. Floppy. The little girl's wide eyes took in the solemn surroundings, her youthful curiosity muted by the atmosphere. Megan had stayed behind to give them space, trusting Gregory and Amanda to navigate the moment together. The three walked slowly down the gravel path, Gregory leading the way toward Samuel's grave. The stone was simple but elegant, etched with his name and the dates of his too short life. Beneath it, an inscription read, "The love of a father has no boundaries." Amanda stopped a few feet away, her grip on Gloria's hand tightening. She let out a shaky breath, her emotions caught somewhere between sorrow and gratitude. "Come on, Mama," Gloria said softly, tugging her hand. With trembling steps, Amanda moved closer, kneeling beside the grave. She placed a small bouquet of white lilies at its base, the flowers trembling slightly in her unsteady hands. "Hi, Samuel," she whispered, her voice breaking. "We're okay. Gloria's okay. You did it. You kept us safe." Gregory stood a few steps behind, giving her the space she needed. He watched as Amanda placed her palm gently against the cool stone, her tears falling freely now. "I don't know if I'll ever forgive you for leaving," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'll never stop being grateful for what you gave us, for what you gave her." Gloria stepped forward, her small presence grounding Amanda. She looked at the headstone, her young mind trying to grasp its significance. "Is Daddy Samuel here?" she asked innocently. Amanda swallowed hard, brushing a hand over Gloria's curls. "Not really, sweetheart. But this is where we come to remember him." Gloria nodded thoughtfully, tilting her head. Is he happy in heaven? The question shattered something in Amanda, and she couldn't speak. Her tears came heavier, and she pulled Gloria into a tight embrace. Gregory stepped forward then, crouching beside them. He is, he said softly, his voice steady, because he knows you're safe and you're loved. Gloria looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for reassurance. And you'll keep us safe too. Gregory smiled, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Always. The three of them stayed for a while longer, the quiet moments filled with reflection. Gloria placed Mr. Floppy at the base of the headstone, before Gregory gently took her hand and led her a few steps away to give Amanda a moment alone. Amanda stayed kneeling, her hands clasped tightly. I'll keep my promise, she said softly. I'll protect her. And I'll tell her how much you loved her, every chance I get. Thank you, Samuel, for everything. When she stood, Gregory and Gloria were waiting. Gregory extended his hand, and without hesitation, she took it. Gloria slipped her hand into Amanda's other one, the three of them forming an unspoken bond as they walked back to the car. The sun was setting as they left the cemetery, casting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. The city stretched out before them, its sprawling expanse a reminder of both the challenges and the possibilities that lay ahead. Gregory glanced at Amanda in the rearview mirror, her face illuminated by the fading light as she watched Gloria sleep against her shoulder. You okay? He asked, softly. Amanda nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. I think I am. As the car disappeared into the horizon, the camera lingered on the grave. The flowers swayed gently in the breeze, and Mr. Floppy sat steadfastly at its base, a symbol of innocence and enduring love. Above, the Los Angeles sunset bathed the world in a glow of hope, healing, and the promise of new beginnings. If this film touches your heart, leave your mark with a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to explore more meaningful stories with us. Share your feelings with us and tell us your own stories. Every word you share is a building block that helps create our strong and enduring community. Together, we'll create a warm space where everyone can share and connect. Finally, don't miss the incredible stories coming your way soon. We're always here to bring you the best selections, full of deep values, yet entertaining. See you there.